All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live on YouTube and Twitter and on Sportswire Radio. And we are in for a real treat because we're going to talk about one of our favorite companies called Dominant Breakout Wrestling. They just had their highly successful show called World War that is closing in on about 1,000 views. And yours truly has viewed this show on multiple occasions. But I'm not here to talk about how many views DBW has here just yet. We're here to talk with one of our favorites. And certainly, he has been a huge topic of discussion, not only on Sportswire Radio, but throughout DBW TV, especially the past several weeks, because he was in one of the matches which I said was going to steal the show. And while it definitely did live up to those expectations, unfortunately, our guest tonight on Sportswire Radio is not holding or not near in sight with him that DBW World Extreme Championship. He's going to talk about why, when, and how, and where it happened. But most importantly, we're going to talk about the future of Brandon Castelli, the Mauler himself, and where do we go from here? He needs no further introduction, but because it's his second time here on Sportswire Radio, he has to get that introduction everybody else gets. And also, he is the first person to speak with us post DBW World War, getting us ready for the Danger Zone. So with that, without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show from Dominant Breakout Wrestling, DBW. They call him the Baller. Brandon Castelli. My friend, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tom. Thanks for having me again. Thanks for that introduction, too.
I appreciate that. Certainly, check is in the mail, and obviously, I'll let you know how my voice is doing. Certainly, we have people joining us. I'll say hello to everybody shortly. But, Brandon Castelli, while it is great to be back with you, certainly we have a lot to talk about, though, here tonight on Sportswire Radio. And, Brandon, I was really confident in a way that you were going to walk away with the World Extreme Championship away from Roland Havoc, and obviously taking nothing away from Roland. He has been more than impressive in his run here for the past several months as champion, beating a who's who of people like the likes of Scorpion the Assassin, and certainly pretty much everybody that's been put in forth through him in the roster here. Cyrus the It Factor, and like I said, I could go on all day long here on Sportswire Radio, but Brandon Castelli, you came up short against Roland Havoc. And so for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, as I introduced you yesterday, for you to come on this show, I have to ask you, sir, what is the future of Brandon Castelli in DBW?
I'll be honest. I also thought that I would come away with the gold. I thought it was a sure thing, but Roland, he's a hell of a talent. He's a hell of a champion, and I guess I underestimated him, and he brought the fight, and he dug in deeper than I gave him credit for, and he was the better man. I can't make up any excuses. I tried to pull out some less than appreciative things to try and win, and he had an answer for it, and them's the breaks, I guess.
Well, certainly that's how the ball bounces. But, Brandon, it was certainly a spot in the match where I think you hit, two or three different, almost like a finishing move of a neck breaker. And you had him down there, and it looked like you were going to put him away there. But did you underestimate Mr. Havoc? Because, again, it looked like that you had him, but you couldn't put him away. I mean, is that why he is the champion? I mean, did you really underestimate Roland Havoc, and especially what he's done as World Extreme Champion?
I take nothing away from him. like I said, I may have underestimated him, and I probably should have went for the cover. Um, I guess I let it get to my head. World War, biggest show, DBW, World Extreme Championship. Like, I was thinking, putting on a great show here. I had already countered both of his signature moves.
Yep.
Didn't think that he had anything else in his bag of tricks, and he surprised me, and that was my fault. I should have just finished it there, but I wanted to, try something new for this monumental show, and it bit me in the ass.
Wait a minute here. Time out a second, Brandon Castelli. You said two things here I want to go back to. The first thing is you talked about the biggest show in the company's history, World War, almost 1,000 views already in less than a week. And then you said here you wanted to try something different for the larger crowd that was watching and the people that were in attendance. But Brandon, I mean, you've been in this spot before and you've come up short. Brandon,
Yeah.
you knew that this was a big audience that you were going up in front of. This is kind of where, and I've said this throughout the past few weeks on Sportswire with the different DBW stars that we've had on here and that competed in this show, that this is where people are going to remember you. In a way, this is the first impression for a larger audience. It's the first time in some cases people are tuning into DBW, and you try to walk away from what's gotten you to this dance. I mean, you have to talk about that, sir.
Yeah. I have no excuse for it. I wanted to, like I said, try something new. He's a bigger guy, and
very big.
Yeah, and he just kept getting up, and I didn't think Castelli's curse was going to cut it, so I was trying to pull out an elephant gun, as you'd say, to try and put him down, but I took too long, and that's. I'm disappointed in myself, Tom.
Well, I don't want to come on here and
focused on it.
Listen, I don't want to come on here and beat you up for a second,
Hey,
but
no, it's
I
all right.
mean, no, we don't do that here on Sportswire. But what I will ask you though, because obviously this has been about 5 days or so since the match took place, but I will have to ask you. I mean, how much have you thought about this in terms of just the outcome, and how much have you kind of thought about the fallout, the outcome of the match?
Every day. I've thought about it every day since the match happened. I've thought about it before going to sleep. I've dreamt about it. Doing daily tasks, thinking about it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Just think about what went wrong. Not even just for this match, but how far I've faltered from the path here. And I've really been trying to just sort of like look inwards and evaluate myself and see what is like, what do I do next? Where do I go from here?
That's
like
what I was going to ask, because I feel like, where do you fit in right now in DBW?
Yeah.
We look at it, obviously, Mr. Judgment has retained the DBW championship.
Hell of a match.
Cyrus the It Factor is now the Globe City champion.
The global
so
champion.
Have that.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have that the global champion. I'm sure we'll speak with Mr. Cyrus real soon. Obviously, the tag titles are now off Ego, and the Heretics have them. And Havoc retained the Extreme Championship. And yet here you are, and you don't have anything after what you've done the past few months, feuding with the Blaze, Ace Christian, Havoc on and off. I mean, you were a guy that was originally a world title contender. You came here on this show the first time talking about the fact that you even wanted a shot at Mr. Judgment. But now, I mean, you wouldn't even get a shot at the boss. You wouldn't even be able to be in the game itself because you came up short here. So, I mean, like, I don't even know where you fit in this post-World War landscape in DBW, sir.
To tell you the truth, I mean, I don't know where I fit in myself. I see the landscapes changing quite a bit, and I don't want to find myself getting lost in the shuffle here, and I don't want to find myself falling off the peak, so to speak. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've been really pondering and looking at myself here, what I can do, and you know, I I got quite a hike to get back up to where I
Well, if you
was.
have a hike, I don't know how long or how big the hike is. I'll certainly maybe get into it. But do you have any regrets on how you prepared for the match, or maybe poked, pun intended, Roland Havoc? I mean, you have
Yeah.
anything that you want to say toward those things?
Yeah, no, I certainly do have quite a few regrets. Definitely, I regret how I got to that point. I sort of backed him into a corner, so to speak, by going after people that he cares about and
You did. You went after
and
ego. You brought in
going after him as well. Having my fiance help me screw him out of a title opportunity. I I'll be honest. I've been a prick for a while. And I think
Well, I wasn't going to go that far, but if you want to
I
say,
think I think it's taken Roland knocking some sense into me to really get me to think about all of the actions that I've done. Not even just in the recent couple, months here, but the last few years, I've not been me.
wait, 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 wait. I thought you were going to be the guy that was just what we saw going into this match. That was just going to just basically kill everyone. Literally, you're a mauler. That's what you're supposed to do. And now you're telling us that you haven't been you the past few years. Help me understand this for the audience.
Well, it's hard to explain, but I don't know when it was, but something in my head just clicked off. I don't know when it was. I don't know who did it or if it was something that I did, but I've never fully been myself at that point. The things that I did to Ace Christian, to Jim, to Ego and Roland specifically, those are just some things where it's like I could see myself doing it, but like through somebody else's eyes. Like I feel like I've never fully had control over what I've been doing, and now I don't know what happened. I don't know what it was, but I've really been able to like evaluate things and see that it's just it hasn't been me.
Well, I'm going to get to comments here in a second. There's a few more people pop in and out. I'll certainly say hello and read off people's comments. But, even Mr. Havoc himself, and I know we'll get to the handshake, we'll get to the mutual respect, but if you watched the end of World War, and obviously you were watching the show because you were there after your match, and it seems to me as if maybe Mr. Havoc, he's not even going to consider you anymore because he seems to be, to me, having his eyes possibly on Mr. Judgment himself. And certainly I'll have an announcement toward Mr. Judgment. You'll certainly want to stay tuned. And so, I mean, I don't even think that Mr. Havoc's going to give you a rematch anytime soon because it seems like now, at least we saw the teaser that maybe him and Mr. Judgment are going to cross paths. So that even further solidifies my point.
I think that's mutual too. I think it's time for me to maybe turn my sights somewhere else.
Well, you came up short against Mr. Havoc. I mean, certainly
that I did.
And he
made
you bleed too. I mean, he certainly took some blood from you, and he certainly hurt you in the outside. And he really laid a number on you. Let me get to some comments here, and I want to say hello to somebody who we thought was going to leave DBW, but is actually back in DBW, and he's got a best friend now, and Aaron Jones. And speaking to people that I know will eventually have back here on Sportswire Radio in the next few weeks, that is the Bitcoin billionaire, the double B himself, Chase Wakefield, says the Mauler, exclamation points. And
DBW
I
has
have a
some deep pockets. I mean,
well,
you thought he was leaving, but
he's got
got enough
bigger
to bring him
pockets than
back.
me even, and most people kind of say, well, I have deep pockets, and he makes me look like I should be a homeless person I see on the street corners every day when I'm back home in Brooklyn. So that's a different conversation for a different time. But I think that this is an excellent point. I think I know this individual is, but I'm going to certainly leave it to the somebody else to say what's going to happen. Is this a new leaf for Brandon Castelli? Is this a new leaf for you, sir?
I think that's what's going to have to happen. Uh, you know, what I've been doing really hasn't been cutting it. And I think if I want to see some changes, I think I'm going to have to really, revamp myself here, and that might be for the better. It might not be. I mean, just have to wait and see. Really.
Absolutely. And I want people to follow Dominant Breakout Wrestling. You can watch World War on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. Over 3,300 subscribers now on YouTube, Twitter, Wrestling DBW, and Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling. So if you want to buy a shirt, you want to support DBW, you can go to those links and find out more because they have a store now where basically you can buy almost pretty much anything here. I think Simon Bartholomew he's plugging those DBW shirts. I mean, you
Yeah.
think I could do in promos and introductions. Nobody does it like him. So big shout out here. So
Yeah.
I'll certainly say hello out there. Make sure you buy a shirt from DBW. I want to say hello to our friend, certainly Mr. Ace Reed. Speaking of aces, he's out there in Australia at 11:49 a.m. on Friday because it's a 14-hour difference. He says, good
Right.
day. We say hello to our friends over in the IMF. Greetings from the IMF. And Omen Black says, hey, Mauler, we got something in common. We both don't like ego. Well, if you watch the show, though, that took place at World War, Brandon actually had a mutual respect with Mr. Havoc.
Yeah.
But, before I get to a really important comment here, I want to say to my good friend, Mr. Ron. Good evening, Tom. Good seeing you. Also, who is this? Well, this is the Mauler Brandon Castelli. He's a fan of a lot of my streams. He probably doesn't watch DBW, but you want to find out more on DBW and Brandon Castelli by going to the links below here. So let me, before I get
Jack
to,
Harlow.
well, but I want to move off that. I got that. He can watch all the DBW shows. But speaking of people that I referenced very briefly, and I'll be referencing again in a little while, of course, he is our champion. He is our prophet of purgatory. He is certainly the man that is the final boss. And he says something I'm asking tonight. Are you going soft here, sir?
Wow. Damn. You really had to go out of your way to say that, huh? What a big bald douche you are.
Yeah, well, wow. The first time I had you on, I don't think you would have said that, though. And why do you say, Mr. Judgment, the man that rules DBW, despite ego growing in numbers, say such strong language here on Sportswire?
I think him and I had a mutual understanding of each other at some point. And I don't know what happened, but after World War, I think him and I don't think we're seeing eye to eye anymore, And going soft, listen, this is YouTube. This is a public place. I'm not going to go into that, all right? So let's leave that out, all right?
Interesting.
Really?
All right. Well,
You happy with yourself?
Well, he's asking a question that I think is going to be on the minds of people between now, Thunder Punch, and Danger Zone. And this is a different tone. We saw the video package between you and Havoc. We saw everything that led up with you and Ace and Havoc and your fiance you spoke about also being involved. And, this time that you would have came on about 2 months ago, this is a complete 360. This is a total change of pace here. So people are certainly surprised. And Mr. Judge, before I get to some more comments, said we did have a mutual understanding. And I'm not going to put it that way, but he is. That's his opinion. You failed.
Yeah. You know what? I failed, but I failed on my own. All right. The only reason why you retained your championship was because you had your two little butt boys with you, and then you used your own daughter to help you. You had
well, no, he
3
won
separate
though.
people helping you, and that's how you got the win. So yeah, I might have failed, but at least I failed on my own.
All right,
If
I
anybody
gotta
helped
follow
me,
up.
I did it by myself.
I have to be an objective journalist here and follow up for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Heretics took the tag titles off Ego. That's the first point. And you have been in this spot before, the way Mr. Judgment may have used his daughter, because your fiance has certainly been in the ring and she's been out there also, though. And obviously, we're
Yeah.
not trying to certainly say anything to obviously short her in any way, what shape or form. But I mean, you've been in that spot and you've kind of done some of those tactics before, no?
I have. I'm not saying I haven't, and I'm not glossing over the fact that
Okay.
I've done those same things. However, when it mattered, I went out there myself. I knew this match was going to be dangerous. I didn't want her getting hurt. I didn't want to tarnish what could have been my win if I had her help me, and all of everything I've had her get involved in before, everything that we did, looking back on it, maybe I should have done things differently. But you know what? Hindsight's 2020.
Sure. I would agree with that. Hindsight is definitely 2020. But they say in the record books that it doesn't matter how you won. The record books doesn't show whether it's through interference or through some bad tactic or any outside interference. You win, and obviously, Mr. Judgment, you can say whatever you want about him. He continues to run DBW, and certainly I'll come back to him in a second. But certainly somebody else would like to say, no, dig deeper. Soon the God will fall, all of them. Anything you want to follow up with that on?
Hey, man. Look, I don't know what you're getting at here, but you're pulling the same stuff that Judgment was. I mean, everybody saw what you did to Depew. Thought you guys had a history here. I thought you guys were supposed to be brothers, and he comes to you like a man, telling you that he's hurt, and you take it out on him. Could have potentially made it so he can't walk ever again. What's wrong with you?
I understand. In wrestling, though, they do say that anybody will do anything to get ahead and get the victory. And
Does it make it right, though?
No, I agree with you on that. I don't think it makes it right. That I don't agree with, but anybody in wrestling will do anything they can. I don't want to make the same comparison, but it's almost like, in a way, it's like jail. It's like you're fending for yourself. You have to go out there and do what's best in order for you to survive and eventually get out of there. And in wrestling, we see this a lot. People either do it for the money, they do it because they want to get ahead. And there's two types of people who do it for the fans and those who do it for the money and championships. And, obviously we're trying to parcel, where do you go from here? So let me come back and get to some more comments. Omen Black does not like Ego. He certainly makes that clear twice. They have some issues. You're not an Ego, so I'm sure those guys will talk about that. I'll come back to Jack Snow in a second, but Mr. Judgment likes to say, you think these people care about you? These mortals know nothing. What do you want to say to that?
It's
speechless there,
it's
Brandon.
mind-boggling. It's
why
you're so delusional. I don't understand. I don't understand where you're coming from with this. You think that they know nothing. We all know what you're about. They know it. I know it now. Who are you trying to kid? Are you trying to kid yourself?
Well, I mean, I guess this might be an excellent time for me to make an announcement, in that I'll have actually Mr. Judgment, the reigning defending DBW champion of the world, live here on Sportswire Radio on all of our platforms Tuesday night at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, Brandon, if you're around and you want to say something to Mr. Judgment, certainly you're
Oh yeah.
welcome to do
I'll
so.
be
Mr. Judgment has
I'll be there.
requested the floor. He has requested almost a
I'll get there.
coronation here, a victory celebration, you might add here on Sportswire Radio. It's basically Mr. Judgment celebrating that he called his own shot here on this show and certainly on DBW TV, that he put his son, he put him down. And it doesn't matter how he did it. He said he was going to do it. He did it. And you can say whatever you want. Anybody else can say whatever they want, but he is going to celebrate his victory. It seems like his permanent run here as DBW champion. I would even say here, maybe the most dominant world champion right now in this sport. Forget about Roman Reigns. Forget about MJF. He doesn't even defend his championship. Forget about, Alex Shelley at Impact Wrestling. Forget about any other company out there. Mr. Judgment continues to reign supreme. He's going to talk about that and some this Tuesday night. And plus, stay tuned. In a little while, I'll have another announcement here for more DBW coverage here. So
you might want to change your profile picture since you're still holding the Anarchy title in it.
Well, maybe he likes the picture. I don't know.
Just
So, what would you recommend it to the current where he's got the DBW?
Well, I mean, he wants to have a celebration being the world's champion. I mean, might as well it reflect that.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to question him. The size of that man, the strength that man has, certainly the tattoos that the man has. I mean, certainly what he does in the ring, what he did to his son, the Blaze Ace Christian. I mean, certainly I am not going to question him or any of those things. For all I care about, he could put any photo he wants, but he's going to be here with us. He's requested a microphone. You can tune in. I'm sure a lot of people will definitely tune in. It'll be same time, same bad channel, 8:30 p.m. on all Sportswire radio platforms. I'll come back to that in a little while, but I have more comments here to get through, so let me do that. You take care of the one standing in your way. I solved mine. Don't get #soft. What do you say?
Listen, I mean, however you want to justify it, you guys were standing side by side. He wasn't standing in front of you. If you're feeling that insecure that Zach DePew was ahead of you in DBW, that's on you. But you should solve it in a different way, not trying to cripple the guy.
Well, I mean, that's certainly a question maybe one day we'll ask him about here on Sportswire Radio. So certainly I want to thank Mr. Snow for tuning in. Certainly I appreciate some of the things he's saying. And maybe if he likes one day, we'll get a chance to talk with him. But I got a couple of more comments here for you, sir. Do you need some more humbling?
It's pretty funny.
Coming from a billionaire, right? Coming from a Bitcoin billionaire. Yeah. But I will have to say, I'll have to make a slight detour. I mean, as somebody actually, this is a real shoot here, Brandon Castelli. I've actually made money in the world of crypto. Bitcoin isn't really doing that great these days. In fact, the crypto market, I wouldn't say it's really down the bottom. It's maybe not as bad as the stock market, but it's certainly not a market that you could be making billions in. I would just say to get as somebody that has made money in the world of crypto.
Hey, listen, man, I got like $60 in my my friggin' wallet that hasn't gone up or down, and that's where it's gonna stay. So
that reminds you remind me of my economics teacher in high school. He used to always go, Mr. Cohen. He would go, well, if I had $5 in my pocket, it's enough money for me, at the time, to go out and buy something to eat, and that's all I cared about. You're like the same thing. You got $60 in your pocket, and that's all you care about. All right, well, obviously you're not going to want some humbling. You seem like a humble man, then at least Mr. Wakefield there. I don't think is going to have those same type of issues, but he's got.
I'm changing the locks, so he better watch what he says to me. All right.
Well, we'll have to certainly stay tuned, and I got some more comments here. Hey, Brandon, Big Tex is always the guiding hand to the good side.
Well, I appreciate that, Big Tex. I'd watch your back, though. Not everybody you extend a hand to is going to. Just humbly take it. They might try to stab you in the back, so just be cautious.
That was my point about the world of wrestling. That is certainly a lot of people will stab you back. There are very few friends, very little loyalty. Those are certainly things here that I brought up here. And I also want to say hello to somebody else. Let's go, Mauler. So obviously, you're starting to get some fans here. Target acquired. So certainly, I don't know if you're the target, but obviously, something else here.
Hey,
Mr.
man.
You know what? I have to honestly recuse myself here for a second because Mr. Wakefield talks about the fact that higher yield farming is the way to go. That's how I stay wealthy in the bear market. Well, at least
I have
he
no idea
acknowledged.
what you're talking about.
So what he's acknowledging is that in order, which again I think is a stretch, in order from obviously to be profitable in crypto, and especially in Bitcoin, you have to be able to mine your own coin, which is a very, 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 let's say it's a complicated process. Let me put it to you in yeoman's terms. And that's how he stays wealthy in a bear market, which he's obviously
Jesus.
correct on. It is definitely a bear market and it's going to stay a bear market. But I'm not here in economics class again. I'm here
I
with the Mauler
don't
Brandon
know
Castelli.
what any of that stuff means. Does it
Okay.
mean I have to take like a second mortgage out on the house and
Well,
then
I
just
mean,
put it all in
I'm gonna leave that
cryptocurrency?
stuff. I'm gonna leave personal finances aside, but I do want to say hello to management in DBW because greetings from the DBW corporate team. It's refreshing to see Brandon in this light. We can absolutely see the fans really getting behind him. I mean, this is kind of a shocking comment here.
Yeah.
Management seeing this tone, and they seem to kind of like this tone from the mold of Brandon Castelli. And how do you feel about that?
I really appreciate that. I don't
Yeah.
know what to say. Was not expecting I wasn't expecting these kind words from them. Who knows if the fans will actually get behind me? I mean, I have done some pretty heinous stuff the last couple months. I don't know if they're going to be in a forgiving mood the next
Hmm.
time they see me.
So let me ask you a follow up then. And I want people to follow Brandon while we're here at Crispy with a 2S 1000 on Instagram and YouTube. And my name is the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station, your voice of all wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Brandon, is this the beginning almost tonight here on Sportswire Radio of a Brandon Castelli apology tour? That was a good
um, it, it might be. I feel like I might have wronged. Well, can't say a couple. I've wronged a lot of people in DBW, and I think I might have to make some things right. Um, I've tried to call Jim a couple times, and he has not returned my calls. So
Well, you can't blame Jim right now at the
yeah,
moment after what you
I
wanted to
was
do to Jim and said to him.
I was expecting that, but that's that's where I'm at right now. I was trying to at least make things right with him first, but um, hopefully once I do that, hopefully then the fans could actually I don't know, not hate me as much.
Well, we'll certainly find out
Yeah.
here. And I do want to ask you, in terms of a match like this, and we'll certainly talk about a few other things here as well over the next little while. But in a match like this that was so intense, where you obviously lose some blood, you have a dog collar match where
Yeah.
basically Havoc uses the chains to basically beat you up and all the outside stuff and just everything that went on. I mean, how much did this match take out of you in terms of just where do you go from here from that in regards? The physicality of
Yeah.
this match might have been the most physical match of the night, I would say.
Well, I almost missed the main event because I had to get into a car and I had to head to the emergency room and get some staples in my head. Um, yeah, Roland, he is exactly a warhound. He
I've had
mauled
him
me.
on here a
He
few
mauled me in
times.
that match.
I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, he's such a warhound that before he comes out into the ring, he actually takes a Sharpie. In fact, I've actually got one of these in front of me because I actually, in one of my practices, I actually carry these things because I'm a licensed notary and I use these things. And he took out a Sharpie and
Yeah.
he signed his beer for a fan of his. That's how much
Yeah.
of a warhound this guy is. He actually
Yeah.
carries a Sharpie with him. And, who knows how many cold ones he had before he even came out to the ring here, sir.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he commandeered a beer truck and had that parked in the venue lot. Just, just before the
Tailgating
match.
101 there, huh?
Yeah, always good to tailgate. But yeah, no, he brought it, and like I said, almost missed the main event. He wrapped the chain around his fist and he punched me in the head.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, that's like it was. I don't know if you've ever like gotten up fast before and like your vision almost goes like TV static.
Yeah,
Like,
I've had a few of those things growing
yeah,
up in
that's
Brooklyn. I
that's
have
what it
had a
felt like
few
when
fights.
he hit me. Like I couldn't see. I fell out of the ring and everything, and I just like it. Like I thought at first like it was just sweat pulled up in my hair, and then I like saw it in my hands. Yeah, and knew I was busted up, but yeah, I feel like that's shaved at least a year or so off my life in that match.
I hadn't
Yeah,
thought of it in that way, but if you say so, because you were the one in the ring. But then again, I have been in a few
yeah,
of those moments in my life. I mean, I can't say I haven't been in any recently, thank God, but I have been in
well,
a
that's
few
good.
moments where I have been in a fight years ago. And yeah, I mean, there
Yeah,
was a few moments where it's like, okay, it's fight or flight moment, got to get up. And, basically you have your ears ringing and your head's
yeah.
kind of out in the daze. But that's here and there. Let me get to some more comments. Jim is still trying to wedge out part of your kneecap from his face. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. That's
Don't mean
certainly
to laugh, but whoops.
well. You know what? I'm sure one of these days we'll certainly get you and Jim in a room and certainly maybe do a handshake similar to you and Mr. Havoc, full of
Yeah.
non-alcoholic Budweiser. What a warhound! I mean, can we confirm? It was non-alcoholic Budweiser. Can management confirm whether it was alcoholic, non-alcoholic, whether it was real beer or fake beer? Because I'm
I
sure
have
inquiring minds would like to know.
I have no idea. I would have to taste it to tell you, but
Well, you didn't taste it, obviously. You
no, I
didn't.
did not.
I want to ask you when you shook hands with Havoc, and then you were leaving into the back, and you kind of looked at him. Was there a moment that you said, you know what, maybe I don't want to shake his hand? Because I think people were really surprised that you did shake his hand and kind of have that mutual respect. Was there ever a moment in that particular snapshot that maybe you wanted to go the other way?
Um, if there was a moment, it was very brief. It was not even a few seconds. I was able to push that thought out of my head pretty fast. You know, everything we just went through. He deserves all of the respect in the world.
Oh, no
Shake
question. I
his
mean,
hand,
he's
and that's it.
certainly.
I feel like if I did attack him, it would have just erased everything that we just did to each other.
Oh,
You know?
listen, no question that certainly his experience in the ring, what he's done, everything else in his career, absolutely all the respect in the world. And he's been on here multiple times. If it really
Yeah.
wasn't for Mr. Havoc, I don't know how much DBW coverage we've had here. So we do appreciate
Good
him
point.
from that standpoint. I always try to call it down the line, but we are on Sportswire Radio. We are speaking all things related here to DBW and the fallout of World War. And again, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling here at the Mauler. Brandon Castelli talking about his match for the World Extreme Championship against the Warhound Roland Havoc. And again, we'll have more DBW coverage actually coming up Monday and Tuesday. Monday night, a little after 9 o'clock, we'll be here with the Bone Shaker. The Bone Shaker is going to be here. He's going to talk all things related to what he's looking to do here in DBW, plus his career and some. And again, Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. You will not want to miss this one. Mr. Judgment's victory celebration. He is going to certainly call out the world. He is certainly going to have a lot to say, maybe about you. Certainly Mr. Havoc. If you saw the end of World War, certainly his son, the Blaze Ace Christian, the rest of Ego. He is certainly going to also coronate the Heretics for taking those tag titles away from the guys in Ego, plus much, much more. You will not want to miss this one. I promise you, Mr. Judgment is certainly going to show why he is the final boss and some. You will not want to miss this once again on all Sportswire radio platforms. And if you like what you hear from us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to Sportswire Radio on our internet radio station. And certainly we are moving to a new website with some new stuff. So I'll stay tuned for details with that very much coming up soon. You can also check out prior DBW shows if you want to relive some of our interviews. They're on YouTube at the link above. And I'll have more coverage tomorrow night. I'll be here a little after 9 o'clock Eastern time with Brogan O'Shea of XCW, the former multi-time world champion. We'll talk about the fallout from High Stakes and some, so you will not want to miss what Brogan O'Shea has to say. But in the meantime, we are here with the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, and I have some more comments now that we got the plugs out of the way. The World War show was absolutely amazing, and the World Extreme Championship match was a big reason why. Absolutely. And I said that was one of the matches I was looking forward to, and it certainly delivered and some. Jackson Snow. Jack Snow.
Yeah, Jackson Snow, yeah.
Jackson Snow, you had to sneak attack Zach Depew. You're not a man, you're a coward, and Roland Havoc will expose you for the fraud of an outlaw that you are. I think I know who this person is now, so I'll certainly leave it out who this person may be, but I recognize the initials now, but certainly that initial certainly seems familiar. But you know what? I certainly don't like to break the fourth wall for people, but what's your objective position on certainly this individual's rather strong views on Mr. Jackson Snow?
Listen, I mean, he's not really lying. It was a very cowardly attack that he did on Depew. I mean, you guys were supposed to be friends, so-called brothers, and all it took was him getting hurt. And you took that personally. I mean, come on, man.
Hey, we see it all the time in wrestling. Listen, the barbershop incident famously with Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. I mean, the Dudley Boys. I mean, we've seen it time and time again in wrestling. I mean, there's a long list of people that you could say, oh, they were tag team partners, they were brothers, and then one goes the other way, the other one goes the other way, and then that's kind of what happens.
One goes into obscurity.
Well, I mean, I'll leave that at that. And who goes to obscurity and who's not? And is that a threat? Well, I mean, obviously, I'm sure that this individual and Mr. Snow will certainly hammer that out here. But speaking of things that I hope doesn't change, you actually came out to typo negative there, and was kind of curious. And what was the reason why you came out to that?
World War, biggest show of the year. Got to make some changes. Got to have something special. But typo negative, that was more so shout out to my mother, who she's a huge typo negative fan, and she's been one of my biggest supporters doing wrestling. And, I just wanted to let her know that I really appreciate that and that I was thinking of her and, my way of saying thank you. So.
Wow, your mother was a typo negative fan. I mean, there's very few mothers that I could say before I get to my connection to typo negative in a second, but very few mothers I know that would say that they're a typo negative fan. And your mother was a typo negative fan, huh?
Yep. Merciful Fate, Candlemass, a lot of other stuff. She actually went to a Merciful Fate concert, I think when she was still in high school. She tells that story all the time. Like, my grandfather brought her there. And he was just he was just not having a fun time at all. So it's always, he was miserable. But she a lot of the older metal and stuff like that. She's a huge fan of, which is shocking. If you ever met her in person, she's one of the quietest, sweetest people ever, and she's listening to that stuff. It's
not so fast. Listen, there's people you'd be very surprised that are actually in to the world of heavy metal, and I just thought it was so fascinating because actually the band and some of the guys, and especially the singer of the band, Peter Steele, actually he lived in the next neighborhood from me, and he was a band that I would hear a lot about because there was a famous place in Brooklyn called L'Amour's that I actually grew up not too far from, and I obviously knew a lot about it growing up, and certainly a lot of the bands in the heavy metal world cut their teeth there pretty much up until about, I'd say, 20 or so years ago. It's kind of in this like industrial looking, kind of gritty, kind of grimy part of Southern Brooklyn. And then here you are, Brandon Castelli plays typo negative. So I'll certainly stay away from some of the heavy metal talk here because we're talking DBW and some other things. So obviously with a match like this, let me ask you though, question, and I'm going to pull no punches on it. Was this the most intense match of your career?
Yeah, I'd say.
And why?
Why? Not only was it physical, first ever dog collar match I've ever been a part of. It was pretty mentally taxing as well. You know, not only just dealing with the stuff in my own head, but also seeing everything that I was putting Roland through, and it still wasn't enough to put him down. You know, like it was like a war on two fronts here. You know, he's kicking my ass physically, and then he's doing it mentally too, and it was really intense. You know, like I said, I had to go to the hospital afterwards, and you know, really just I had to take a couple moments when we got back. I had to just stay away from everybody and, you know, sort of like decompress almost, you know, and yeah, it was something. Like I said, year and a half off my life there.
Oh, you said a year. Now you said a year and a half. So now thinking about it,
Yeah,
probably
you know,
another half year on the calendar. And
brain damage is really hard to keep track with stuff. So
well, and I do agree with management. You should definitely keep that song. And again, when there's a
I was
lot of
thinking
great.
about it.
Well, you should. Listen, Typo Negative definitely was a great band. I think about Christian Woman, Black Number One. I mean,
Oh yeah,
certainly Bloody Kisses, Summer Breeze.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of great songs out
Oh
there. You
yeah,
could
no,
certainly
definitely.
choose.
Blood and Fire.
Yep, Blood and
Love
Fire.
all
Yep,
that stuff.
yep. Dark Side of the Womb. I mean, we could certainly go on all day about obviously
This
Typo
will have to be
Negative.
a different interview talking about this.
A very different interview. I mean, certainly, I don't want to waste people's time here on that. I mean, obviously, I'll leave aside some of my own heavy metal stories. I'll certainly leave them out for a different topic. But I do want to talk about, obviously, in the future for you. We spoke about at the top before I promote the vlog and a few other things. But I mean, like, what are your goals now for the rest of the year? You know, I had you on, and it was obviously gold, right? We talked about gold, that
Yeah.
World Extreme Championship. We talked about the fact that maybe you wanted to get another crack at Judgment at the end of the show the first time. But the second time, now that we have this show coming up, Danger Zone, we're obviously going to stay tuned for more details from DBW, again, on all their platforms. I'll pull the link up in a second. But, like, what are the goals now? After falling short the way you did, like, what are your goals now? Have they changed since you came on the first time?
Well, certainly the main goal of the World's Championship, you know, that's always been, you know, my top priority here.
It's a title that it's eluded
Yeah.
you in your career in DBW. You know it,
Yep.
and everyone else does.
Yeah. Never won that. Challenged for it a couple times. Fell short, you know. But getting to that, you know, I feel like that's going to be a goal in of itself, you know. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. By hook or by crook, you know. I'm just gonna really have to take a look at, you know, myself and what I can do to get back on that path, you know, and also just coming off of this grueling bloody match I just had, you know, like
Bloody Kisses almost. It was like Bloody Kisses almost.
Yeah, it was. But just going off of that, you know, I'm gonna have to look at everything, you know, try to change my tactics and see how I can come about this a different way. But my main goal, like I said, the DBW World Championship that has eluded me in the almost 6 years that I've been with DBW. That's it. That's why I got to get to.
You know, I don't want to make this comparison, and I have a couple more comments. There's some new people
Sure.
commented, and there's a new photo from a guest that I'm going to have on Tuesday. I mentioned, so certainly he heard
I'll
you.
See you next Tuesday.
Well, I'm sure of that. But you know, I had a wrestler on here, and he was kind of like you, and he had this change of character, and he couldn't win the big one. His name was Bentley, and Bentley now.
I actually did see him win that championship. That was
yes, the GT Ministries
champion. Yeah.
Yes, and this was a guy kind of like you, Brandon. You know, for a long time, you know, couldn't find himself in the wrestling business. You know, now he's got 2 world titles, but for a long time, he struggled. He couldn't win the big one. Now, I know you've held gold before, so it's not as if you haven't won anything. But obviously, of late, you have struggled in these title matches. You've struggled to get back to where you need
Yeah.
to be. So I almost don't want to ask this question, but you know what? Maybe I should, because you are starting to remind me of Bentley a little bit before Bentley. And I've known Bentley for 2 years. I've had him on. I would do every month. We'd have a dance because he works for 2 companies that we do coverage with, GT Ministries and Bolton Town Wrestling. Very lucky to have their support over the years. But
I saw some of their stuff, by the way, not to go off track, but very good stuff.
Well, I'll certainly mention you if you like, because I'll have one of the
Sure.
wink and a nod owners of the company next week, not this week coming up, but the next week. So I'll certainly mention if they're looking for talent Americans. So certainly you have to say Yankee-like talent, as they say in the UK. But the point is that he struggled to find himself. He struggled, couldn't win the big one, but he dug deep, and he finally, after a long time, was able to overcome those demons and time again, like you. So I almost have to ask you then, do you feel like you can't win the big one?
It's a very tough question.
I try.
Well, my track record certainly speaks of itself when it comes to world title opportunities. I believe I am now 0-3 when it comes to challenging for the WWE World Title, with 3 different champions. So it wasn't just that guy specifically. It seems like the world title, as soon as that's introduced, it's just, no matter what I do, I can't do it. I don't know. I don't want to say that I can't, get to that, but at the same time, I mean, what else can I do? I want to get to that point. I want to get to the world's championship, but every time I get right there, someone slams the door right in my face. And I don't know, maybe this time will be different if I ever get another opportunity, but I've heard people say that, and
but you know what, though? And it's a point, again, as we're here with the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, and I want people to follow Brandon again on his platforms on YouTube and Instagram. We'll get to those shortly in a second. And I've got a lot more comments, and I'll get to everybody here. But, you already knew you were 0-3 in title matches. You already knew it was 3 different matches with 3 different champions. You already knew all the semantics there. So real talk for a second. Yeah, I don't know if it's in your mind. With Bentley and I've had him on like 10 times over the past 2 years. Somebody can fact check it. I mean, I'm sure somebody does on Sportswire. But the fact is, I would ask him these same questions, and it seems like maybe it's mental with you. Maybe it's just, you think about it. You have regrets. You have doubts. Maybe it's a confidence issue. In Sportswire, we speak with a lot of college basketball players, basketball coaches. We speak all the time about confidence. And do you have confidence? And, I don't know. Maybe it's mental with you, Brandon. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but you're going to have to, maybe with this new way you see things, or this maybe new leaf you've turned, as somebody said at the beginning of the show, maybe it'll lead to better results for you. We'll have to see. But, you got to jump in.
No, I was just going to say, going off of this company that was in, they're on a hiatus now, but in Lake Katrina, New York, UWF New York.
Yes, I've heard of UWF New York.
That was really the first world championship that I had won, and it was a climb just to get there. I challenged for that title 3 separate times during that summer. I believe it was the summer of 2020. And it was finally the last attempt, my last chance. I actually was able to do it. And I don't know, maybe that's how I can get to it. Maybe the stakes just aren't high enough, maybe because I know that it's not dangerous enough. Maybe that's why I'm not giving it 100%.
Interesting. You said dangerous. I don't know what you're trying to imply there, but those are certainly questions we'll certainly see as we get ready for Danger Zone and more DBW content. Obviously, Thunder Punch, watch all that on YouTube. Yes, also, make sure you support the company. There's a shop zone out there, a shop store that you have. So if you want to buy a shirt from your favorite DBW store, definitely do that, because obviously that helps everybody in terms of putting together this product, which has so many different types of views.
Take out a second mortgage on your parents' house, buy shirts. I really can't stress that enough. I have no moral when it comes to purchasing
well,
merchandise from DBW.
well, I hope it wouldn't cost that much to buy a DBW shirt.
Well, no, I just meant using that money from the second mortgage just purchase a quantity of shirts, you know?
Well, I mean, I don't have that problem. I can just probably buy the store outright. Maybe I could even buy the company outright, but I don't think that's a good idea because I don't want to open up a keg of worms here. But we'll leave that fun aside here. Let me get to some more comments because people want to say hello. My boy, the Mauler, so want to say hello to this individual. So obviously want to make sure we say hello to him. And again, speaking of the new photos, and again, he's getting ready.
Hey, look at that. He changed it.
Well, you know what? It's going to be his show on Tuesday, so certainly he's going to be able to say whatever he wants. You pathetic sack. You do not want to be in the ring with me. You think you had brain damage from rolling. Your soul will be consumed. And he agrees with my comment that he can't win the big one, meaning you can't win the big one.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, and speaking of somebody that actually has tuned in and wants to say something to you. It was the man that you squared off with last week at World War. He is the Warhound, the World Extreme Champion from Ego, Mr. Roland Havoc, who's rolling on with a comment. First, Brandon, he gives a beer. Second, Jack Snow, the white cans that Roland has on his entrance is an Ego edition of Budweiser. Special edition can. I guess Ego is so big these days, they get special edition Bud cans.
You got to talk to me about getting the sponsor or something.
So when I go to 7-Eleven, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to have to, although I'm not a beer drinker, full disclosure, I'm going to have to look to see if there's a special edition Ego Budweiser 12-pack, 24-pack, whatever it might be. And if there is, I'll certainly let everybody know on Sportswire and elsewhere.
Maybe it's only like one or two places that have that special brand there. Can we just talk about, first of all, this is wild because growing up in Rhode Island, you can't buy like beer or liquor or anything in like a gas station or something like that.
Really?
Specifically to a liquor store.
How about a second? Growing up in Rhode Island, you couldn't buy beer in a gas station?
No, they don't sell it there. You have to specifically go to like a liquor store or like one of those smoke shops or something like that. Like they don't mix the two together. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. If you wanted to even get like a 6-pack or whatever, you have to drive to like the one or two liquor stores in town to get that. And then
I don't understand. It makes no sense to me.
Look, I don't know either. I'm just saying.
I'm not a beer drinker. To me, it would just seem, well, if I have a convenience store, a gas station, a supermarket.
I know. You can get it anywhere.
Beer, and that's just, I don't know.
Where I live in Pennsylvania, the 3 gas stations that are right near the house, each one of them has like a huge walk-in liquor closet thing that you can get in there. Like, it's still shocking to me. I'm still trying to adjust to that, but yeah.
I guess you learn something new every day on Sportswire Radio. Oh, that just made the beer even more shitty. And he also says, don't waste your money. Well, I mean, look, each to its own. I'm not going to certainly tell people what they should or shouldn't do in their lives. Mm-hmm. I love the rock hard Mauler. So somebody likes you.
At least somebody does.
You have a fiance. So, I mean, your fiance.
Well, yeah. Listen, she's going to give me shit for that one.
Yeah, I would say, Brandon, you are live on Sportswire. You do realize you're live.
Shh, you're being too loud. She's going to hear it. God,
trust me, I get stopped all the time. People say, I always run to me. People tell me, "Oh, you said this, you said that," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I did. I mean, so, but that's here nor there. But let's get to that. What do you say toward Mr. Havoc and the level of respect?"
Yeah, no, I agree. There is a level of respect there. You know, we could have done things differently. Maybe not as amiably, but
yeah,
we settled it the right way, and all the respect in the world for that.
Hey, you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, some could say, well, that's how you should do it. You should go out there and put it all out there and may the best person win. And in this particular case, you came up a little short, but certainly you had a
Sure.
respectable showing. And I think that certainly Roland Havoc is certainly one of the leaders here in DBW. He has certainly
Definitely.
had a decorated
Year-long reign
career.
as World Extreme Champion.
Oh, listen, I mean, his run has been impressive, and it's
Absolutely.
certainly been one of the most impressive in recent memory. And I did want to kind of ask you one of the reasons why I thought you were going to win this match, Brandon, because on some of your vlogs, which we plugged here on YouTube at Crispy with 2 S's 1000, you were throwing axes last month, and
Yeah.
you were basically doing almost like camera editing and almost showing us footage from prior DBW Thunder Punch shows. You were traveling all around the place, and
Yeah.
talk about some of the recent vlogs and what was it like throwing an axe?
I've never been axe throwing before. That was so much fun. It was a lot harder than I thought it was at first. First couple ones I threw, like I either threw it like way too hard and it went like over and then hit the wood part on top of the target, or I wouldn't throw it like hard enough, so just like bounce off of it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was a bunch of different axes you could throw with. I tried to use each one, and then we played like a little game of getting up to 21. So we split up into groups of 2 and did that. It was
that was the
a lot of fun.
episode where I think that was it you that had to go with Nature Calls. I think
No, that was my friend Jeff.
Yes.
We were gonna go hiking and have no idea why. Minutes before we were gonna go hike, he decides he's gonna go to Dunkin'. He's gonna get a coffee, which already is a diuretic, and then he's gonna get like a sandwich, a greasy as hell sandwich from Dunkin' with cheese on top of that, and then go on hiking. We weren't even like, it wasn't even 10 minutes into it, and he's like, "All right, I gotta go." And then instead of just going into the bushes, and dealing with that, he drives like all through town and goes to a hotel and uses their public bathroom. It's like we were waiting for like 30, 45 minutes.
At that point, I wouldn't even went up to hike at this point. At that point,
we actually we ended up having to kind of cut it short because his girlfriend at the time, she has lupus, and
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was hitting her really hard, and she was not doing well. So we figured we'd just head back, do it another time. But,
so would you throw an axe again next time?
Yeah. We actually have a couple coupons, like for whatever you want to call them, like a couple passes, like 4 of them, I think. So just trying to figure out a good time to go again. But it's like 5 minutes away from our house. It was.
Wow. That reminds me almost. There was a not so famous Mike Myers movie called "So I Married an Axe Murderer." So I mean, I'm sure that's one. Yeah. It was. Well, it wasn't one of his most memorable movies. Put it this way: it was in between Wayne's World and Austin Powers. That's why it was kind of forgotten. But certainly, that was my first thought. But I mean, so what else will we see on the vlogs upcoming? Obviously, the last one we saw was kind of almost like an inside look, literally at a Thunder Punch show. We saw the different, almost like camera angles and the different stuff that was going on in the matches. But don't, without spoiling it, what else do you think we might see from the vlogs where we can follow you again at Crispy with 2 S's 1000 on YouTube?
Yeah. So like the last one that I posted, obviously it's kind of, a couple months behind. But that was like Thunder Punch, Double Cross. But I had that one. Obviously World War, which there was a lot of footage I recorded.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of footage of that.
I got to try and sift through it and edit that and make it not like 45-minute long video. I got that one. A couple of the of my friends that go to NUW. I couldn't make the trip. I have footage from that. Trying to think what else here. Tristan and I, we went to a zoo in I forgot what town it was in Pennsylvania, but we got to go like inside the otter exhibit and we got to feed them and do a bunch of stuff with them. So like, it's
you went to a zoo in one of the vlogs. You guys actually did go to. Was it an aquarium? I think you went to.
Oh yeah. It was the electric the Electric City Aquarium. We got to
Yes.
feed the
With the
stingrays and
mall, we were
stuff.
talking about that off the air. You guys went to like a mall with the mall had an aquarium,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's really cool. But it's also like one of the only things left in that mall, which is
We
kind
were
of
talking
depressing.
about it, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
well, do you have a food court? Do you
no,
have like, yeah,
no,
we were talking about it. I'm like, how does a mall not have a food court? I'm thinking about back home here. I'm thinking about the Staten Island Mall. I'm thinking about Kings
yeah.
Plaza and the Fulton Mall in downtown Brooklyn. There's always a food court. You're telling me that a mall didn't have a food court?
Well, a mall that's barely a mall or that's about to go out of business or something, yeah, it won't have a food court. But any of the other ones we go to that are at least somewhat kept alive will have a decent food court.
Well, that's good. They gotta have like a Cinnabon. Every mall to me has a
Yeah,
Cinnabon
like an
or
like
Aunt
an
Annie's
Auntie Anne's or a
pretzel. It's like
Cinnabon.
to me, it's almost like a requirement that every mall has an Aunt Annie's or a Cinnabon
Or a
or just
Dunkin'.
Dunkin'. Yeah, Dunkin'. Yeah, Dunkin'
Yeah,
is a big one. Everybody's got a Dunkin' or
yeah,
whether it's a Chipotle or
yeah,
now Chipotle's a thing. Chick-fil-A. They have
yeah.
just something. They gotta have something. So
Well,
hopefully
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
case.
I'm actually a little bit upset. A lot of the places around here, like, it's usually just like Starbucks or whatever, and I'm kind of bummed out that there isn't like more Dunkins built into these things. But
Yeah, I'm not a Starbucks person. I have to admit. I mean, I'm not really a Starbucks person, but then I'm not really a coffee drinker. So
yeah,
I mean, Dunkin's okay. I'm always Dunkin' to me is kind of like a requirement. So Dunkin', I could
yeah, me
certainly
too.
agree with you on Dunkin'. Dunkin's good, although I've become a Tim Hortons person of late. So what? Anything else on the
Yeah.
vlogs that you think we might see that before we transition to the
Um.
couple of more fun questions I have and the rest of the DBW coverage?
There's a couple more that are in the pipe that I don't want to divulge yet.
Yeah,
Um.
yeah. Don't do anything that you can't say live on the air because it'll come back. Somebody will say, "Hey, what did you say there?" And I got a funny comment off this here. Wherever you see a Starbucks, I think he meant to say a Chick-fil-A somewhere. Yeah, that kind of makes sense because in the
Yeah.
Staten Island Mall, there's a Starbucks, and then you go right up in the food court in the escalators. There's a Chick-fil-A. They put a Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
in the
It's kind of
Staten
weird
Island
how that
Mall.
works out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess people go based on what's traffic and what these
Yeah.
places do. I mean, like I said, there's two Aunt Annie's in the Staten Island Mall. I mean, Kings Plaza has one. I mean, so Starbucks. There's a Starbucks in Kings Plaza. Obviously, the Brooklyn and Staten Island malls
Yeah.
for those that are obviously keeping score. But yeah, I mean, I guess people. I would have always thought McDonald's would have been a requirement in the food courts, but these malls
Yeah.
don't have them. I mean, I actually am not the biggest fan of the food court, at least in the Staten Island Mall, because that's where I go to watch my movies. In fact, the food court selection there is so. Chick-fil-A is good, though. I will say
Yeah.
I'm okay
It's all
with
right.
Chick-fil-A. Yeah, it'll get me by. It'll get me
Yeah.
by. Let's
If
just get
there's nothing else that I actually like, then yeah, I'll probably eat
It's
Chick-fil-A.
get me by food. Listen, it's kind of like
Yeah.
if I really would I go on my own all the way to a Chick-fil-A? No, but if I'm in
God no.
if I'm in a pinch and I really don't want to go and wait another hour to eat, then I'm gonna have a
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A. But I could ask you more on the vlogs. Obviously, everybody can check it out on YouTube at Crispy 1000 with two S's. But I have to ask you a couple questions here for fun because
Sure.
I recently had some guests on. Before I get to a few final thoughts on DBW, there was a recent guest that I had on. You probably heard of him. He apparently owns all these different banks, and he's in a company called Redemption Championship Wrestling. His name is Moses Ireton. You were in the ring with him, and
I
we were
was.
speaking about this off the air, and I obviously spoke with Mr. Ireton about this when he was on the show last month. And he's also intertwined with somebody else that had a birthday not too long ago that also very well.
Yes,
And I
I
was
do.
curious, what were your memories of being in the ring with Mr. Moses Ireton?
Oh my god. He is deceptively agile for a man his
He's a
size.
former football player, won a bowl game. I'm not surprised about that at
Yeah.
all.
But yeah, it felt like I was getting mauled by like a grizzly bear or something like that. And that was the first time anybody has ever manhandled me.
You're a big
like that.
guy. You're a
Like,
big guy.
yeah, I'm not trying to downplay, myself at all, but when he picked me up and he friggin' did the fall away slam, I almost went out of the ring. Like, I was like, I'm weightless over here. I just got flung out of there. It felt like I broke the fucking stratosphere over here. Oh wait, can I say that? I'm sorry.
Well, at this point, I mean, because I'm actually trying in the
Fair
middle of
enough.
changing internet radio stations. Just at this point, go for it. At this point,
Fair
I
enough.
mean,
All right, cool. It kind of slipped out, but yeah. So it was it was quite the experience. I yeah, he's a big guy. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think I got traumatized by him or something. That was
well, I mean, that was an interesting experience when you wrestled him in the ring. I think about almost a year and a half ago now, and obviously
yeah.
he's the CEO and chairman of Ireton Enterprises, and I'm sure we'll speak more about that. And
No,
Moses
no
had a
wonder why
lot.
I've had so much financial issues. It's after I wrestled him, he just garnished all my wages and made sure that I couldn't get work. That's what it is.
Well, you might need better representation. But speaking of people
So
that are
yeah,
having their problems with Mr. Ireton, you have some history also with somebody that has been in DBW. You actually have some also history with him in VTW, who, oh, by the way, just celebrated a birthday and happy belated birthday to Mr. Cynic, who
yeah,
recently had his birthday this past Tuesday. And you've actually been in the ring with him in
I
VTW. And I think
have.
we spoke about that here on Sportswire with him. And he's obviously had quite a history at Mr. Ireton. So I was kind of curious. And,
Yeah.
what do you want to say towards Cynic? Obviously, you have some interesting history there with him, and
Yes, I
and I
do.
believe I spoke about you quite a bit with him on the show last month, and I was curious on what you'd like to say about him now, sir.
Well, I think I already said it to him. I could be wrong. If I did, I feel terrible. But again, happy birthday, Cynic. I miss you. Um, he's a hell of a guy.
Yes,
He's a lot of fun to work with in the ring. I had a blast. He's one of the easiest guys to talk to. Very nice. Maybe outside the ring.
I was gonna say because I've
um,
watched him in the ring, and
or maybe he's nice to me. I don't know. Um, uh, his two sons, they are just they're so precious, and I love seeing them, getting in the ring and stuff, because then it's like, wow, maybe they'll start off really young and following their father's footsteps, but all the positive things in the world to say about Cynic. He's
absolutely.
killing it over in the North Carolina, South Carolina, I think Tennessee
Let's
as well.
yeah. I think they're doing some
Yeah,
stuff in Tennessee. He's also a part of things in Redemption Championship
yeah, no,
Wrestling
I
there.
saw that too, and he's making a killing over there too, and yeah, I couldn't be happier for him. I couldn't be more proud of him. From doing stuff in New York and DBW with a certain balance of rhymes with Mayos, and um,
Mm, yeah.
from that to where he's at now, he's doing wonderful.
Absolutely. I want to give him again a huge, huge happy birthday to Cynic of Redemption Championship Wrestling. And obviously, he's a part of things in VTW. Certainly, there's a lot of crossover in DBW and VTW because obviously, I've been
Definitely.
watching the most recent shows. I've seen like a quarter of the roster from
Yeah,
VTW and DBW, and I've seen DBW guys on VTW TV. So, obviously, we'll certainly look forward to plugging all that stuff here. But before I get to a few more questions to ask you, I have some more comments. Literally, that dog collar match is seared in my brain. Yeah, you know what? I have to say, I watched it a second time and I felt the same way. I was like, I think I watched it the second time differently than I watched it the first time. So I'm glad. I think I'll watch it again after we're off the air. And probably when I get Mr. Havoc on at some point again, I'll watch it a third time and have a different opinion on it. So you can
well, I
certainly,
appreciate that.
well, that's what we're trying to do here. Obviously, a
Yeah,
1,000+ views that we're coming up on.
seared in
And
my
then
brain too.
Mr. Judgment says, I can be nice, but then says, scratch that. No, I can't. You're all garbage. Well, he also says you're all filth. And, but they'll certainly leave that there. But,
Mhm.
I want to ask you a couple more questions before we get to closing thoughts. And the first thing is,
Sure.
what did it mean to you, leave aside the outcome of the match, to be a part of such a successful show in World War from DBW?
I think it meant the world to me. Being a part of DBW in 3 separate eras. I think that this was a special event, and I really wanted it to succeed. I wanted it to, from bell to bell, I wanted it to be, our show of shows. And I feel like we more than exceeded expectations, and getting to be a part of the dog collar match with Roland, having a good match, I think, anyways.
It was a great match. No, not a good match. I think it was a great match. Are you kidding?
But having that match with him, helping further that lineage and everything, it meant the world to me, and also this being DBW's like show of shows, the first World War, like it's gonna always have a special place right there.
No question about it. And I want people to watch the show. You can do that
definitely.
again, relive it.
If you haven't watched it, watch it. If you have watched it, watch it again.
I was gonna say that's an excellent way to segue. You could take over my chair on Sportswire. Obviously,
no. I don't want that.
Well, I don't want the job sometimes. But in the meantime, though, forget about who's got the job. Go watch the show on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. Now, I had to ask you another fun question, real quick, because apparently in attendance, because I was watching it was Mr. Chris Craven, and I was curious if you got a chance to speak with him, have a couple of thoughts, anything that don't reveal too much, but
sure.
Did you get a chance to say hello to him and say anything to him?
Yeah. I think it was, closer towards the end of the show, I was able to talk with him a little bit. Nothing but positive thoughts and positive feedback and everything. And, he, very, very nice guy. And being able to just talk with him a little bit, but I know it was also very hectic too. So
I know. I mean, the show was like, it was. I could only imagine whoever out there might be hearing this to put on a show like that and the time and everything. Then afterwards, you have to go back and actually edit this show and put it. I mean, this is like a project answer. I mean, listen, I would, whoever put this show together and then actually had to go out and then put this out for the world to see. I think I would rather be me in law class when I had to go and do a presentation, and that was law, constitutional law. I would rather be in my shoes back in college than whoever had to put together this entire DBW show, from putting the card together, showtime. I mean, this was difficult. I mean, like I said, I was in law, constitutional law. I went through a paper. I had to go out and speak, and I would rather have done that than put this, because this seems like in a short amount of time, Brandon Castelli, the Mauler, I mean, this would, like, my head would explode. That was a good one.
Yeah, no, it was kudos to the editing team and all that. It was
my God. I mean, they must
not
have been
an easy
working on
task,
this,
I'm sure.
It reminds me of like the Simpsons episode when it was like somebody was like, they were kind of almost like manning the nuclear plant and they were going like this. Then it was Homer was in the nuclear plant and then he was like, he fell asleep and he just kept putting the buttons. I feel like the editing team in DBW probably had those moments where they kind of were like half asleep, but still like doing the buttons.
Yeah.
Because it's really to put that show together and go back and edit it. Huge shout outs to everybody in DBW. And I can't stress it enough. Go out there and please support DBW in whatever way possible. That's again on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. Just go watch the show and find out why, and look forward to Danger Zone. Certainly Kenny Loggins has nothing on what we're going to see with Danger Zone coming up here. And Thunder Punch shows, I'm sure, will be in there before. So stay tuned for more. Go to DBW's Facebook page at Dominating Backyard Wrestling. I want to thank management for all their support of Sportswire Radio. So I want to thank management for giving us some birthday wishes. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to formally thank people because I've been sick in my own right, but I want to thank management again for saying happy birthday and all that stuff in between. But, I'm coming up toward the end of our show here tonight with you, and obviously we definitely want to have you back in the coming weeks. Always love having you on here. So, I mean, do you want to say anything to anybody in the back or anybody in DBW right now as kind of your final thoughts to them before we close the show tonight?
Well, I know I said it before, but I do want to, apologize to those that I wronged in the past. Guys like Ace Christian, Roland Havoc, AJ, Colin, Jim, but he won't return my calls. Chase Wakefield is a garbage praying mantis.
I knew you weren't going to say anything nice
Nope,
about him.
I
I
won't.
knew that was coming.
Nope,
I knew that
nope,
was coming.
I won't.
And you might be seeing him back on Sportswire real soon, so he's going to respond to
Good.
that and some. I
Good. I
promise.
hope he does. I look forward to it.
He'll be back. I promise you, he'll be back.
As far as the comments that Mr. Judgment has been making to me, they. I'm not just going to let you say those things and just let it sit there. You know, you and I, we will talk, whether it be Thunder Punch, whether that be behind the scenes or something. You and me, face to face, we're going to have words. I don't like what you've been doing. I take offense to what you said to me. And, you know, if you want, we could settle it by talking, or we could do other things. It's your choice. But, you know, take care of that.
See, I think I just learned something here before we sign off tonight on Sportswire Radio, is that the Mauler Brandon Castelli, in addition to apologizing for his actions of late in DBW, he wants to have a chat, you might say, or maybe a conversation, an exchange of words, you might even say, with Mr. Judgment, the prophet of purgatory, the reigning, defending DBW champion of the world, and he's going to be here at his victory celebration. He's going to address the DBW Nation and some Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I have no doubt that Mr. Judgment is going to respond to that and some. So
sure
will you get your wish? I guess we'll have to find out. But I do have a few more comments from the champion before we sign off tonight. And he says something I think you said here on a previous show. You and I have never faced one-on-one. So maybe there's something to that I'll have to ask him conversely.
We've only ever faced once in a tag team match on opposite sides.
He said one-on-one. Yep.
Believe I got a couple up on you in that tag match.
But he says, though, he counters and says, the last time I was in the ring with you, you were destroyed in the baking sun. That does sound painful, though, I will admit.
Well, you know what? I might have suffered from heat stroke or whatever one it was.
As somebody who's had heat stroke in the past, it is not fun. I have had heat stroke.
No, it was brutal. That's a different story. But you know what? The end of the match, the outcome, you might have won, but who had the last laugh? It was me. So maybe I'll have the last laugh again.
Well, we'll see, just maybe, if the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, very well could be walking on the sun, as Smash Mouth famously had their song In the Sun back years ago. Will the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, have his moment in the sun, you may say, with Mr. Judgment, the reigning, defending DBW champion of the world, the leader of divinity and the man that reigns supreme here in this sport? He has shown why time and time again he is the final boss, and he would also like to say, make sure there's an open invitation for anyone from anywhere who wants to come on with the prophet.
Well, look at that.
Are you hearing what I'm hearing, sir? That maybe
I'm hearing something. If that's what he wants, I have to oblige.
So are you saying then Tuesday evening that just maybe that you might have at some point a few words here live with Mr. Judgment? Is that what you think?
Just maybe live via satellite. I might have some words with.
Now, do you have availability, sir, Tuesday? I know you're a busy man, but do you have availability to, obviously, if that's the open invitation, the opportunity that he may say he's granting, despite this being his victory speech, his celebration, his coronation, to show why he is firmly in the driver's seat of being the final boss? Is, your schedule open?
I think I could make some changes there.
Oh, well, you know what? I guess that might be a clue for people to tune in on Sportswire Radio coming up Tuesday night in the link above. So you'll have to stay tuned because, ladies and gentlemen, we went through the gauntlet of the future of Brandon Castelli. We've learned
Yes,
in the
we did.
present that he's come up short, but he's maybe turning a new leaf. He's apologizing for some of his actions. If you're an ego, if you're Jim, if you're anybody else that has been wronged by this individual, he's saying, you know what? I'm turning a new leaf. I'm saying sorry, and I want to look forward to the future ahead. And
Yeah.
maybe a part of his future very well could be the final boss, Mr. Judgment. And just maybe we might even get a few words from both guys Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And before I get to closing thoughts, Mr. Judgment would like to tell you whether it's Castelli or those tubs of lard from before. It makes you... That was kind of funny.
Oh God,
It was funny. Tubs of lard. I haven't heard
Oh,
that one in a
Jesus.
while. I haven't heard actually somebody say tubs of lard in a while. Maybe
Yeah, that's a.
that's an old school reference.
Oh boy.
It's an old school reference.
Oh man, that got me.
Well, you know what? We'll see if it gets you even further Tuesday night because it looks like now maybe I'm gonna see you for a little while.
Looks
But
like
I
you
want
might
to.
see me.
I think that might be very well in the cards, in the plans, and I think that the DBW champion has certainly extended that invite. We'll see
How
when
courteous.
that might be, but that's why you're going to want to tune in 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on all Sportswire radio platforms, and especially follow our friend at DBW. Especially if you haven't watched this show. Before I get to closing thoughts, if you haven't watched World War. Clearly, at this point, you have to get your head examined. What are you waiting for? The show has been out there for 5 days. Over 1,000 people by now have watched the show. What are you waiting for? This was arguably one of the best shows in all of wrestling this year. It was arguably one of the shows that's maybe the greatest in DBW history. It's going to be one of those shows that helps DBW go to even further heights. Brandon talked about 3 phases of DBW. I think we're on our way to a 4th phase ahead. And I think that's why, again, I cannot stress this enough, why you need to support DBW at every single platform there is. And if you can, go out there and buy a shirt, whether you need to take out a mortgage, a loan, whatever it might be. Just
rob a bank.
Go out there. Well, Moses Ireton owns banks. Chase Wakefield's a Bitcoin billionaire. If you don't have the money, they have it. Take it from their accounts. They won't even notice. Just go out there, buy merchandise, support DBW, and support Brandon Castelli, our guest, our very, very good friend. And Brandon, I want to give you now the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else we left out tonight? Anything else you want to address or say to the audience here? And I turn it over to you, my friend, and the floor is yours. And fire away.
I appreciate that. And like you said, if you haven't watched World War yet, I know it was only 5 days away.
Something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah. You really should go to the hospital. You might have a major head injury. Go watch the show. If you watched it already, watch it again. If you watch it again, watch it a third time. Get those numbers up.
Listen, I go to the movies all the time. I've seen Equalizer like 50 times. I saw John Wick 50 times. Just go see World War like 50 times.
Exactly. Listen, it's about the same length as a Lord of the Rings movie. So if you watch one of those, you can watch this.
To be fair, listen, I saw Oppenheimer was like about 3.5 hours.
There you go.
So, I mean, listen, that was long. I sat through that. I went to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019. That was 3 hours and like 35 minutes. So at this point, I'm used to seeing long things. And this felt like a walk in the park compared to all that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wrestling. It's great.
Absolutely.
There's some great matches.
Amen.
Championships being defended, returns, a live performance by a band. Like, come on. What are you waiting for? And also, go buy a shirt. Go buy... I don't know if they sell anything else besides shirts, so don't listen to this next part if they don't sell it.
I think there's sweaters.
Okay. Well, I was going to say buy coffee mugs and everything else, but take the shirt, cut off the thing, put it on a coffee mug.
Coffee mugs, though, are good gifts for Christmas. You know,
exactly.
Coffee mugs are good. You know, I always never went wrong buying a coffee mug for somebody. I never went wrong with that. So, yeah,
exactly.
That's
Listen, don't know what to get somebody for Christmas? Buy them a Thursday Night Thunder Punch shirt. Don't know what to get for your 6-year anniversary? buy them a sweatshirt with DBW, or buy one with one of my designs on it. Like,
well, I
what are you waiting for?
think I honestly at this point my whole wardrobe is wrestling shirts. I will certainly in the
Exactly.
coming days buy a wrestling shirt. One of these days we'll see me on here and we'll wear a DBW shirt. At this point,
Yeah, there
I'm
you go.
probably like Mr. Ireton and Mr. Wakefield. I can afford it. I might as well just go do that when the time
There you
allocates.
go.
And so we'll certainly see. I mean, we want everybody to follow you on all of your platforms. And I have 2 more comments before we sign off. And the champion would like to say it was the best show because of your savior. Well, I mean, I'm not going to certainly agree or disagree because you're my guest Tuesday. So I'm certainly not going to go pick a fight there. And speaking of people, one of our new champions in DBW has returned. And all he says is, hey, ... Mauler ... The it factor.
Hey, Cyrus. Look, congrats on winning the global title. I had that championship before you. I'm hoping that you do great things with that and carry the legacy that I had with it. But
he says, I'll see you soon. And I'm going to see him on Sportswire Radio very soon.
I'm not hard to find.
And I'm sure we'll talk about you. We always do on Sportswire. Your name always comes up, especially when it comes to DBW. So I am sure that we'll bring up when Mr. Cyrus returns before Danger Zone. So certainly stay tuned here on this Bat channel. You can obviously watch all prior shows on Sportswire here. Follow Brandon again, Instagram, Crispy with 2 S's, 1000. Same for YouTube. And again, one more time tonight, you can watch YouTube on DBW at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, Twitter at Wrestling DBW, Facebook, Dominating Backyard Wrestling. Well, I can't quite say congratulations, but I'll certainly say at the very least, we'll see if this new leaf gets you over the finish line and gets you more results and a little bit more success in DBW. And I look forward to watching you on Thunder Punch episodes upcoming and also Danger Zone itself that'll air. Go to DBW's pages for more information on that. So we'll certainly look forward to seeing you also Tuesday night as well. And
being there.
Thank you, as always, my friend, for your time and your hospitality and your gratuity.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for wanting me to come back. I really appreciate it, Tom.
Well, we'll have you back anytime you want. But ladies and gentlemen, that was the Mauler, Brandon Castelli, who almost, if you might want to say it, is on the beginning of an apology tour. He's apologizing for his actions to the likes of the Blaze, Ace Christian, Colin and AJ, of Ego, Roland Havoc, the man he squared off with last week at World War, and even the likes of Jim. We'll see if
Still
this
hasn't called me back.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about this, but obviously this new leaf, we'll see if the results will vary a little bit more in success for Brandon Castelli. But my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station and your voice of all wrestling. And I want to thank DBW one more time for granting us the opportunity to speak with Brandon. I'll have more DBW coverage coming up here Monday night at about 9 o'clock with the Bone Shaker. That'll be an interesting conversation, to say the least. Yeah. Tuesday night, 8:30, victory speech, the coronation or the recoronation of Mr. Judgment himself. And Brandon apparently very well may pop on. And also, I'll be back here tomorrow night. I'll be here at 9 o'clock with Brogan O'Shea of XCW and obviously the fallout from High Stakes and some. But in the meantime, if you're on Sportswire Radio's internet radio station, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube and Twitter, thank you for tuning in. And again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. Thank you, everybody, here for tuning in. And I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Be there or be square.